You know the old theory that if you keep a conversation going on the internet long enough, someone will accuse someone else of being a Nazi? No one ever thought that if you kept the internet going long enough, people would just readily admit to being a Nazi.
A better you starts today.
Hey, guess what? I've got a live seminar that I'm taking across the country. And it's not just one. Every single week there is going to be a different topic, a different key topic in self-help, where you are just going to get the most refined points. Over the last 10 years of me reading about this, I've got them all in different categories, and bam, they're going to go straight into your brain. They're available at the link below. Tickets, that is. I just like to take your memory back to not even that long ago when Kanye West first came out with all of these tweets and everyone thought, is he mentally ill? Is he bipolar? And then after a while you started realizing, okay, this is his shit now. This is what he does. And so at this point, everybody has this grown eye roll of, because it just doesn't have the same pizzazz anymore. And I think this all goes back to this one quote that I was reading of his a very long time ago. I think it was in the book Create or Hate, which I highly recommend. Even if it wasn't in that book. But just know, I don't think much about these videos when I do them, apparently. But I will admit that that book is great. Guilty as charged. I know it's a very controversial thing to say in this day and age, when people are going out there. It's just... Mel Gibson didn't do anything in comparison to this. Nothing. Isn't it incredible how much the internet has just opened the Pandora's box? All of the social taboos out the window. Everyone just keeps pressing the button. It's just this arms race endlessly to try and find the next shocking factor. Obviously, we have run out of them, haven't we? Because no one's shocked anymore. No one's even shocked. Anyway, I don't know. Look, to Gen Z world, this is all very understandable behavior to me. This is more just a conversation between us millennials, really. So anyway, back up. Listen to this next bit, because I think that it is quite instructive about where Kanye West went. I won't even say wrong, because I think that it's making him incredibly wealthy. But I will say, he's probably lost a lot of money, though. So, I don't know, I'm not his accountant. His accountant's probably not that good anymore, because it's definitely not a Jew. Anyway, so the point is that he is always of the opinion that true artists, this was his quote, true artists create energy in the world. And their entire point is to create some form of energy and see what that happens in the rest of the world. And the whole point of an artist is to create that sort of conversation and discussion. And that was always his recipe for when he was about to release an album. He would always start a beef. He would always say something controversial, but nowhere near to this level anymore, right? This is just him saying this now without releasing an album. So he does that, gets all of the energy around him, and obviously that's always going to be great for sales, the controversial statement. I think that what has happened in the internet age, and it is a Sam Harris theory, where he's saying that this is the age of the arsehole, in the sense that everyone has become a Jerry Springer contestant for attention. And attention in its own element is the new currency. And I mean, if you think about it from pure metrics, don't you think that Kanye West is far more of a global celebrity, far more in everybody's face than he ever was as an artist? Look, if you're in the rap world, obviously you're going to be sitting there saying, he was always a titan, mate, but, you know, what about us that just like Spice Girls? Like yours truly. And thought that what's the point of any other album when it's just been perfected in the 90s? I didn't even like them that much. I was just trying to think of a lame. And they're not even that lame. They're good. Sorry. Anyway, the point is that I'm looking for a crap album. Put it in the comments. And so I don't have to think for myself. They are always going to be looking, if you are looking for just getting straight out attention, and that's your only metric of success, well, you're going to go down the Elon Musk path, aren't you? You're going to go down the Kanye West path. And in this day and age, especially when you own the platform, who is going to stop you? Who is ever going to can you? We always knew that attention in terms of ratings when it came to television was do or die. In this day and age, though, and this goes into another, I've thrown a lot of books at you, but Christopher Lasch, he predicted this in the 70s. He was saying that the more that society becomes mechanized, the more that your average human being has a good quality of life, doesn't have to do much for it. Well, how else are you supposed to make a living in this day and age? Huh? You could put a bunch of labor and time into something, but I don't know, with the advent of a bunch of Rapmaster 2000 tracks or whatever you musicians use, you could probably make something pretty comparable to Kanye West these days. You don't have to spend 30 years deconstructing Dr. Dre's beats and then coming back to it. There is a machine that has already done it. There's an app for that. And so now, what are you left with? First off, it was labor that was replaced with mechanized labor. Then it was intellectual labor. Like, dude, I remember an accountant once bragging to me saying, I don't really have to do much anymore. I just press this button and it does all the accounting for me. And then I said, so what's the point of you? And she goes, I've just still got to come up with more creative things. You've got to move into the creative outlet. Yeah, I'm sure. Look, unless you are figuring out huge global loopholes as an accountant, you're not doing anything creative. Let's be honest. Anyway, I kept her on board because I felt sorry for her. And so that is now the creative aspect of it. So really, what can you do? How can you remain relevant to a massive audience? I mean, it's just so obvious now, isn't it? You can send a tweet and have far more attention set on you than slaving away thinking about an album for 3 years. And you can just do that every day. So really, all that is left now in this day and age is personality. And it's very easy to replace personality with just saying something shocking. That's where the economy is going now. It is pretty much just a battle of personalities. I'm sorry to be so bleak about all of this, by the way, but really, that's pretty much all that's happening. Robots are doing so much. Like right now, I am just doing this in a studio. Probably if I was doing this in the 90s, what would you need? You'd need a sound guy, you'd need a teleprompter dude, you'd need a camera guy, you'd need an editor, all of this. Like most of this is just done now. There is not much left to do. So if you are, like Kanye, like Elon Musk apparently, completely just guided by attention, this is the result. This is the result. Now, let's just think about that for a second. Let's think about that. Is that a good thing? Do you reckon? I've been watching the Jerry Springer documentary recently. Have you seen? I cannot recommend it enough. It's honestly fascinating. I mean, it was the original outrageous show. So obviously the story behind that is going to be incredible. And it is. But something that just keeps coming back to me every time is that the ratings battle back then, for King of Midday, was between Oprah and Jerry Springer. Isn't that a perfect dichotomy of human soul now? Don't you think? Like, if humanity's soul was put into a yin and yang, right there, don't you reckon? Like, they were pretty much comparably on for the same amount of time. Anyone that watched Oprah for 25 years, I can guarantee you would have ended up being a better person. It was basically just a counseling session every single day on TV. And a self-help seminar other days, where to just rev you up. And then sometimes it'd just be the feel-good, like, you get a car, those episodes as well. But generally, as Oprah Winfrey summed up very well in the documentary, you watch Oprah, and the reason that her ratings are high is because she gets people to expose their soul, and Jerry Springer got people to expose their penis. Now, why did Jerry Springer exist? Why did it exist? Because after a while, people realized there is no way we are ever going to beat Oprah. She's way too far in the ratings. All you can do is go the other way. Go really base. Because if you think about the average person that is watching television at midday, and if you are watching this during midday, this definitely still applies to you as well, okay? But it's so brutal. But how brutal is this? Essentially, obviously, what the producers of Oprah thought, or Oprah, or whoever was the brains behind that show, they obviously realized if you are watching television at midday on a weekday, you probably need some help. Probably. There's probably a lot of more constructive things that you should be doing during a workday, right? As opposed to sitting down, yeah, my girl Oprah, oh, she gave away a carpet, not to me. That's one. So they pretty much geared a show around doing that, helping the audience that was watching them. It's really quite phenomenal now that you think about it. You cannot sit there and say that Oprah wasn't a great positive impact on the world, especially with an audience that was collectively, I think a cumulative audience weekly was 46 million. Nuts. Nuts by today's standards, isn't it? Anyway, then you had Jerry Springer on the other side. And so they just thought, all right, let's just keep getting more and more shocking. Let's just show a guy who married a horse making out with a horse. Let's just show, someone of the Jewish Defense League and some white supremacy cult just like duking it out. That was what they went for. And what was the thinking behind that? Well, if you're watching television at midday, there's probably something wrong with you. And instead of working on trying to fix yourself, you could very easily sit there and watch someone who was far more of a freak than you and then think, thank God I'm not that. That is the basic dynamic between these two. There is a reason that these two became so dominant. Such a great, that when you start moving television towards this new field that we have now, where you have like infinite chances to give it a go, eventually it is going to go down these two paths because those are at the core what is at the soul of everyone, right? Like it really is just the angel and the devil. So it's always just this thing of like, are you going to strive to be better, or are you going to look at other people and think, I'm better than that? Obviously, this is what attracts people to someone like Kanye West. But don't you think that it's quite debasing that if that guy continued to make albums, okay, maybe he has lost his juju. It happens to a lot of musicians. Most musicians, it's a young man's game, especially rap, obviously. It's an angry genre. And so when you get to it, like, it's always just and also music is always just cool. So it's always going to be the 20-year-olds that are setting the trends. So you can't really compete with that. But if he just shut his mouth and kept it like that forever, don't you think that he would be remembered as one of the greats? He'd probably be up there with your Tupacs and your Biggies or whatever, for sure. That's probably what would have happened when he died. Now, when he dies, people will just be like, what a spectacle. That's what I'm saying. That man has turned himself into a Jerry Springer guest. And that's how you can permanently keep yourself in the attention eye in this day and age. Because before, yeah, okay, they find some freak in Alabama and they film them for 20 minutes and then they just send them back to Alabama and then nobody ever hears of them again. But if that Alabama freak had a tweet, well, then you get the Huck Tour girl, don't you? What I'm saying is, look, going down that path of wanting attention for the absolute minimum amount of input, that's where you end up. You end up as a circus act. A circus act is always going to attract attention. This isn't a particularly new path, is it? Because there was freak shows in the 20s. And before that, I suppose there was traveling circuses. This is an old trick. You are always going to entertain people by just making a spectacle and having all these slack-jawed gawkers going, "Ugh." You always saw that with Jerry Springer's audience. You look at the entire audience and it's people that are just marginally doing better than the guy that's, having sex with alligators, like that slightly better together than that. And then they go to them in the crowd, you need to get your life together. It just did not look like they had it together. That's one option. The other option is to go down the Oprah path. Okay, might not be as glamorous. It might not get as much attention, but this is the whole thing. This is what you need to remember for the rest of your life. You know how there's always one teacher in the back of your mind that they kind of change your life? Everyone has that teacher. Shout them out in the comments. But there's always somebody that they sort of rose you out of the crap. Like I had one. Her name was Miss Taylor. Anybody that took Miss Taylor's class, this was a whole cheat code towards getting a good HSC result at our school. She was doing geography, but she actually marked your essays properly and told you how to improve them, while everyone else is just like, nah, C. Just not give you any, obviously most people don't give a shit about their job. Some teachers, however, seriously, genuinely care, don't they? And so she would do that, and no one would take up geography, but anybody that did take up geography disproportionately every time, absolute top of the HSC, year on year. Why? Because she took the time. She garnered your respect. Always remember this. If someone teaches you something, you will respect them. And those are the two things that you can really do in this day and age. Those are kind of like the two options that are becoming the economy as it stands. You can either become a freak spectacle, or you can educate and illuminate people. That's kind of where you're going in this day and age. And like, honestly, I think that this is just a very good lesson for you personally of where you're going to go. You're going to go down the Jerry Springer route, or you're going to go down the Oprah route. I'm telling you now, doing the Oprah route, that only worked in its own right, I think, because like the time was exactly right for that to work. It probably will never be as instantaneously rewarding. But these are the people that are going to build the world. If humanity is going to survive, it is going to be because of people like that. People that try to elevate other people around them, that try to show them a path of something that is constructive in life, as opposed to endlessly just destroying and bringing things down. And I think that that's a really good thing to remember when you're looking at all of these people. It's honestly like, look, Elon Musk was going down that path with Tesla. I know that there's always going to be the people in the comments being like, you didn't need Tesla and shit like that. Look, shut up for a second. just go with this. That was the path that he was going down. I am the savior of the world. That was what he was trying to get. He's getting way more attention now just doing his little Nazi salutes or whatever. And that obviously seems to be what is motivating him more. But don't you think that if he didn't go down that path and he just stayed as the visionary behind Tesla and SpaceX, he would be remembered as someone like your Henry Ford-like characters, some of this sort of industrialists that push the entire world forward with their vision. That's how he would be remembered. All I'm saying is, it is the slow burn. It's very slow doing this. It's way slower doing something that is actually constructive. But it's so much more rewarding, because attention in itself is always vapid and empty. Always. It's kind of corrupting to the soul. There's no substance behind it. Anyway, those are my thoughts. And if you like those thoughts, I've got actual things that I talk about to actually build you up behind my Patreon. That's just all the self-help stuff that I've read that week. I give it to you, I condense it. It's usually about 3 books worth of stuff, and I give it to you in 10-minute chunks. So it's for the price of a coffee. You are getting raw self-help, bam, straight in your brain. It's honestly the best Patreon there is, easily. Every other Patreon is just like, just get another podcast. I've also got those as well, by the way. But like, just get another podcast of us talking shit. No, I'm here to build you up. That's what you get if you sign up to the Patreon. And on top of that, I'm doing seminars where I do exactly the same thing. And the links are below for both.